hand and want to turn your notes, but it's becoming more and more difficult to find the juicy bits about people. Everyone is becoming guarded. And it's the same with Sheila. She doesn't drink, well, not between 9 and 5. She doesn't swear, only between 9 and 5. So I looked at sport. Now, she tells me she used to like cricket. Until one day she was listening to the famous match between West Indies and Northants when Michael Holding was playing and Peter Willey, and Brian Johnson on the radio, as Sheila was driving in the car, said, to new listeners, the bowler's holding the batsman's willy. And Sheila said, shall I explain to you, Bob? The bowler's holding the batsman's willy. And Sheila said, if that's what cricket's like, I'm not going to watch it anymore. She doesn't like football. I've recommended she goes to West Bromwich Albion. She'll never see any football there. I apologise to any supporters and directors who might be with us. If there are any supporters, would they put their hand up? Because Mike McGinnity would love to see some. Rugby. I said, rugby, Sheila. I said, do you like rugby? She said, well, no, not really, but I like the men who do. And I said, Sheila, there's something funny about you. She said, yes, there is, it's Keith, and he's going to be there tonight, so don't mention it. Speaking of Keith, who's hiding away behind the bar, he and Sheila have been married for 16 years. Keith tells me, Sheila tells him he's enjoyed every minute of it. Well, he says it's a minute when he thinks of England. Shall I explain them to him? Do you know, looking back to 1972, it was an unlikely match between this dashing young tailor. Come on, Keith, show yourself. Between this dashing young tailor. Who on earth made those trousers for you? And they touch in a lot of places. No, it was an unlikely match between this dashing young tailor and this ageing bank clerk. I'm sorry, hang on. It was an unlikely match between this dashing young tailor and this engaging bank clerk. I'm sorry, Sheila. And I wondered, well, how did they meet? And I can tell you, you know, it's a tale of romance and passion that would do credit to the 10 books that Mills and Boon publish every week. There's a glint in Dennis Jones' eye, Sheila. Now we know what he reads when he pretends to be doing the Times crossword all day. That went down well, I'll say it again. One day, long ago, once upon a time, Keith used to work for Austin Reed. And a man came in one day and said, I'd like a suit for a funeral. And Keith said, well, I've got this nice little number in olive green with brown stripes. I've been saving for a fancy dress. This would do. And I said, yes, I'll try the jacket on, please. And he put the jacket on, and it was far too big. Much too... But I'm running on. Let's go back a little to October 1949. I should mention, by the way, that tonight's speech depends upon split-second timing of my assistants and colleagues. I apologise if they make any errors. But go back to October 1949, when our Sheila had left school. And here she is, just about to depart school. You know, Sheila, the newspapers today never reveal the sources of their information. I can tell you tonight, the stories have come from Gordon Morris, Isabel Walsh, Peter Wilson, and all the photographs and banners have been done by Mike McGinnity. And Sheila left, and she joined Lloyd's Bank at its New Street branch, those 39 years ago. And here she is, if Sue can be a bit quicker than she was last time, here she is on her first day in the bank. Can I draw your attention to the shoes? It brings a new meaning to going Dutch. During the years Sheila's been here, dozens of managers have worked for her. And we'd have liked them to have all been here tonight. Unfortunately, they couldn't. Some have gone to the big chief manager in the sky. That's where he is when we try to phone him, Sheila. One, Mr. Bell, Gordon Morris told me this, one of Mr. Bell was too frightened to come because one bonfire night, he was sitting in his office, Mr. Bill, not Bell, Bill, and Sheila let a firecracker off outside his room. It was so loud it woke him up and his secretary fell off his desk. And in actual fact, as with the sun, come along Sue, quickly, there are Sheila and her little friends. There's Cheeky Della and Isabel Ward, waiting to hear the big bang. Oh, well. At great expense, we bought something that goes bang. And at that point, I was going to say to Arthur Ross, it's better than X-Lax, Arthur. Beverly Franklin was in charge of the big bang. Are we going to have another go, Bev? No. He couldn't be here, he was too frightened. John Davis, who most of you will remember, he couldn't be here. He's in Paris trying to convince... He wasn't invited, but he couldn't have been here because he's in Paris trying to convince a taxi driver to accept the pesetas Sheila gave him for a holiday in France. But we have got some old managers here. We've got some very old managers here, actually. David Briggs is here, Sheila. He's changed since he left. I couldn't tell him. I recognised the shirt, but I couldn't tell him. Bob Moore's come tonight, and I'd like to say we take the mickey out of Bob an awful lot, and I'm too emotional to say it really, but I honestly, you can have another go, Bev, have a bang behind the screen. Oh! I've got to say that Bob Moore is the finest chief manager Birmingham City Centre has ever had. All I'm worried about is what the second one's going to be like. Arthur Ross and Gordon Morris are here, Sheila, and I think we ought to publicly thank the matron for allowing them to miss their basket weaving class this afternoon. I mentioned the magnificent buffet, and Arthur Ross would be very, very pleased if someone could chew the meat for him because he's got a catch. It's important. He has to catch the Variety Club coach at 6:30 to be back at home in time. We've got some customers here. Boxmag Rapid. We've got Di and Mike McGinnity. My wife likes Mike McGinnity because she wants me to stop smoking, and she says he's the only man she knows who smokes more of my cigarettes than he does. But I wonder if we could just go back to Austin Reed's and the little man's there trying his jacket on, and it's far too big, and Keith, who's an expert, tells us, look, if you stand like this, it fits perfectly. If you pull this sleeve down here, look, it's marvellous. It really does fit well. And the little man says, do you know, I think you're right, I'll try the trousers on. So off he goes, try the trousers on. I think we ought to leave him perhaps in the changing room for a few minutes doing that. Because Sheila, you know, hasn't always been a foreign expert. Peter Wilson tells me when he joined the bank, he worked under her for a while. And she was the machine room supervisor, and he said that when he went in there, it was chaos. Absolute, utter chaos. There were checks in drawers, there were credits in drawers, there were differences going back over 3 weeks, and there was one girl who was so fed up, she went to lunch one day and never reappeared, never came back. And in actual fact, we've got a picture of Sheila, machine room supervisor, and her assistants actually on the bank steps looking for her. There's Sheila, by the way. You know, nothing's changed. Peter Wilson's nowhere to be seen. Later, you know, Sheila went into foreign, and she became an expert, and she became well known. And one day, 2 men came in, the Andrews brothers, I gather. I used to know their sisters, but... and they came in and they said to Sue Aldrich, could we speak to the scout lady, please? And she went away and thought, the scout lady? Now, she thought and thought and thought, and she thought, well, Sue Ward does something with Girl Guides. Now, Dave Marjoram used to do something with Girl Guides, but we're not going to talk about that. And so she brought Sue Ward up to the counter, and he said, no, not her, the stout lady. And Sheila's been big in foreign ever since. Anyway, going back to how Keith and Sheila met, by now our little man's got his trousers on, Sheila, and They're 6 inches too big round the waist, and they're 4 inches too long in the leg. But Keith's an expert tailor. He shops at Barn Green, by the way, should you ever tumble into it by accident. And he says, look, if you stand like this, and it's perfect. That hurts to me. It's perfect. And the man said, you know, get off the... He said, you know, it is perfect. He said, I think I'll take it. He said, more than that, I'm going to wear it to go out. He said, I'll go and pay. And so off he goes, pay, which gives us an opportunity to cause the amp to shout and look again at Sheila, because it's not been all work, has it, Sheila? Has it, Sheila? There's been a lot of play. And Sheila, in her youth, used to go to the towers dancing. She's got her shoes here. And one night she was dancing with this, I'm sorry to tell you about this, Keith, but dashing young man who was charming and handsome, and he swirled her around the floor. And he said, I'll buy you a drink. Arthur Ross recognises the chat. And as they sat and had a drink, Sheila said, what do you do? He said, well, I work at Lloyd's Bank, Colmore Row. And she thought, oh, this could be good. She said, well, what do you do? What do you do? What department are you in? How much do you earn? He said, I'm a plasterer. He said, I'm doing the same in the ladies' toilet. This is true. And Sheila was pretty quick. She deffed him out 4 gin and tonics later, and he'd gone. And holidays, she loves holidays. She's been everywhere. Blackpool, Prestatyn, Rill, and here's a photograph of Sheila on a day trip to Leamington Spa feeding the birds. But we've got more photographs than I've got speech. But you know, as befits a foreign expert, Sheila's travelled abroad. Isle of Wight, Isle of Man, Spain, Portugal, and last year she used Bob Moore's timeshare apartment in Beirut. There's no doubt Bob's always known a good investment when he sees one. And while she was there, she was walking along the road one day and recognised a religious leader. And she went up to him and she said, I have been an admirer. You did, didn't you, Sheila? I have been an admirer of yours all my life. She said, this is the most wonderful moment in my life to meet you. That part of the act is later. She said, do you think it would make my life complete? You said this, didn't you? Would you please give me an autograph? And he said no and walked away. And Sheila ran after him and she slapped him hard across the face, didn't you? Now, there's nothing particularly unique about that, but I've got to tell you, Sheila, that the Guinness Book of Records have been on the phone today asking for details of the story, because as far as they are aware, this is the first recorded incident of the fan actually eating the Shiite. Can somebody explain it to Keith Rowley, please? We're not going too quickly for you, are we, Gordon? No, we're not. He's better than the last time I saw him. Anyway, my little man leaves the shop and he's got this suit that's perfect, and he's walking along the road like this. A bit like that as well. And who should be coming the other way but Isabel Ward? Is she here? Walsh. Is she here anyway? She hasn't come yet. With Sheila, and she said to Sheila, oh, Sheila, she said, look at that poor man over there, he's a cripple. And Sheila says, yes, but hasn't he tailor made a good job of his suit? She said, I'll have to meet him. So they went in the shop and you met, didn't you, Sheila? And within a few minutes, they realised they were well suited to each other. Despite Keith's off-the-cuff remarks, Sheila never got shirty. Bob is a tailor, you see, and they decided they were made to measure. And Sheila thought, I'm going to collar him before someone else. So they tied the knot quickly, and ever since they've been living out of each other's pockets.
What about the double-breasted bit?
Do you know, I knew there'd be a heckler. I'm glad it's Gordon Morris. I was worried it would be somebody witty. That's not fair, Gordon. You've got a wonderful sense of humour. He's a laugh a year.